everybody, hope you're doing well. Welcome back to another video. This is my January wrap up. I haven't fully done my stars ratings for the books. I guess I'll just give you an initial impression, and yeah, also if I forget things, then that's just me now. I literally have been forgetting all the things lately. But yeah, the first book I read in 2024 was The Five by Hallie Rubenhold. I really enjoyed it. So I'm going to give this 4.5 stars. This is a non-fiction book that follows the lives of 5 women from basically birth to death, and the thing that connects them is that they were presumed to be murdered by Jack the Ripper. Hallie Rubenhold does such an amazing job of telling their stories. And what I also loved was how it gets to sort of their death and, you know, the horrible tragic things that they went through. And she doesn't, you know, glorify the death and, you know, really explore that at all. It's just sort of their lives, basically. That's what it is about their lives of these 5 women. And we get to know about their their birth, their family, where they're from, their different jobs they've done, different relationships they had, families they had and children. And it really does such a good job of humanizing them and not making them just, you know, sort of a name and their connection to Jack the Ripper, because they, you know, obviously they lived a life. There was so much more than the fact that they were murdered by him, or possibly we don't know, you know, who he was, or if it was one person. And also it's not about Jack the Ripper at all, really. It's about them. That is the pure focus of the book. I did really enjoy that, and I think it was done so well. Also, the way she tells it, it's clearly non-fiction. You know it is, because it is sort of sometimes states facts or, you know, dates and stuff like that. But she does a really good job of, you know, getting you invested in their lives and their struggles and the things that they go through. That it sort of does read sort of fictiony at times, but it isn't. So yeah, I would really recommend this. I did think maybe it was a little bit dragged on sometimes, but on the whole it was a great book, and definitely a worthy read and a great way to start the year. Next is Sweet Pea by CJ Suske, I think. I actually DNF'd this. I can't remember how far in, but I got to nearly an hour and 45 minutes of listening to the audiobook. I really enjoyed the show that I had last year, and the show is based on this series of books, and I just didn't really like it. I didn't really like the character, and just the way she was just going about things and stuff. I didn't really get much of a connection to her. And yeah, I just didn't really think it was that well written. It was just a bit frustrating, I guess. So I did DNF this, and I'm glad I did. Yeah, on my spreadsheet, which I have here, I just put general apathy. Yeah, I just didn't really care, to be honest. But yeah, the next book I did read is A Girl in Snow by January Kafka. This is one of my 25 for 2025 books, actually, and I'm so happy I got to it. This is following over a few days. It starts with a girl being found murdered by a play area, in this small town in the US. I can't remember where exactly it is. Again, I'm sorry, I'm not gonna remember anyone's names, but we basically follow 3 characters who sort of knew her. It's not really about her death, and it's not about the murder in a sense. It's more about these people and the way who we are when we're being watched or not watched, and the way sort of how it can affect you, and even if you don't really like the person or something, you know, different notions of death and grief as well. And I did think it was really well written, and I would recommend it. I don't think it really holds a candle to her second book, Notes and Execution, which I think was phenomenal. But in a similar vein, it is very, very well paced, it's well taught, and she does keep your attention, and you do want to continue reading it. I think for star rating this, I will probably give it a 4, maybe a 3.75. I did enjoy it, but not many things have really stuck with me. But yeah, like I said, it was a very, very decent read. I forgot to tell you about The Little House by Philippa Gregory. Now I have to like put all my spreadsheet properly again, because anyway, I mean, at least I caught it early. But this book follows a woman that's doesn't really have any other family apart from her husband, and he and his parents have always wanted to like buy this little house or like little cottage, which is like only a little bit further away from the parents' house, and they sort of, in a way, like not pressurize it, but like say that, oh, this is the best thing, and we're gonna be here for you, like babysitters and stuff like that, and sort of slowly buy a house, and then he sort of the husband sort of like pressurizes her in a sense, basically, to start a family, and they have a child, and it basically follows her sort of postpartum depression and her experiences with having a child, and like the responsibilities, I guess, of motherhood on her. And I mean, I can't believe, like, I read Solar Sailor after this and I didn't see any like similarities, although it does really deal with very, very much so the same things about all the pressure on the woman and the things that she goes through, and the, like, you know, the onus and stuff is on her. And but it's also sort of the controlling nature of his family, especially the mother, I would say, or the grandma, I guess, of the child, and sort of like using her mental health problems as like a arsenal in a way, or like something against her. And yeah, that's how it goes along, and there's like some other things as well, a little twist at the end. It was billed as sort of like a thriller on the description for the audiobook. However, that part is like right near the end, and basically the whole book is basically like a domestic drama in a sense. And I do think it was a little bit like misleading, because I was expecting a bit more, you know, meat and stuff to it. It is very monotonous, and I guess that does build a sense of this growing, like, what's going to happen, sort of into a crescendo in some sense, but also it is a little bit too dragged out, I would say. Yeah, I do think it was quite well written, well, from what I remember. I've totally forgot a whole book, and it's not even been like a month since I read it. This brain is just crazy recently. But yeah, I think for star rating, I'm probably gonna settle on like a 3.25 maybe. I think it was fine, but it like quite forgettable, and I guess I wanted a few more things to maybe happen a bit earlier, and you're sort of just left with like, okay, and then also a little bit like irritated as well at the end. So that was that, but I do want to read some of the things by Philippa Gregory. I know she's written a lot of books. Next is Lynx by Natsuki Kizu. This is a manga book. It's translated by Adrian Beck from Japanese. I didn't particularly like this. I think for star rating, I'm probably going to give it a 2.5. It's set out as like short stories about these mostly like queer couples, or going to be, and they're sort of interlinked in a way that like they know other ones in the stories, and they sort of come together. It's quite messy, I would say. It's a little bit, it's not very a pleasant reading experience. Also, so many of the characters sort of do look very, very similar. So I was just like, I don't know who you are you the same from this other story? Like, I didn't really get it, to be honest. Quite a lot went over my head. Also, just the stories are very short as well, and you don't really get to know much about the characters and who they are, and that sort of leads into the fact that you don't really know who they are. Yeah, I didn't particularly like this, but I know that she wrote the manga series Given, that's it, which I do really want to read. It's about like a boy band, and I think quite a few of them are queer as well, or like in relationships and stuff. And I think I have the volumes in the series. I'm not 100% sure, but I was at home. But I do want to read that, and I do think it would be better to be able to have more time with the characters and actually get to know them. But yeah, I wouldn't really recommend this, to be honest. Next is the audiobook. I listened to Witchcraft for Wayward Girls by Grady Hendrix. I think I will probably give this a 3.25. Here's the thing, it started out very, very good, and I was so intrigued because I've really enjoyed witchy books last year, and the impact on women, and women that are ostracized from society and pushed out because they are like different, or like they thought of as being wayward. And these girls that are in the book are because they get pregnant when they're teenagers, some by force, some just like by accident, and how sort of like all the onus is just on the girls. There's no blame to the men because they made the baby themselves, obviously, and it just sort of gets you angry because you're just like, I'm sorry, you're not making any sense, love. That women don't just like make babies just like by osmosis or whatever. The men have to do something as well, and just to put all the pressure and the blame and the shame on these young women for getting pregnant is just very frustrating and annoying, but true. When it was set in like the 70s and still today. But basically these girls go to this home to basically have their babies, and then the babies will be adopted off, and they can go back to their normal lives and forget about it, and just say, oh, I was on summer camp or something like that, and yeah. And then the main character, I think she's called Never, but then she's given the name Fern because all the girls are named after like flowers or nature things, and they're not allowed to say their actual names because it's all like meant to be anonymous. But she likes reading, and she friends these other ones. I think Holly, there's like a not a roof, Rose, and Azalea, I think. I can't remember, but they sort of get friendly, and there's this woman that comes as like a traveling librarian basically, and they allow the girls to borrow books, and she gives Never this book about like how to be a groovy witch, and then they sort of started experimenting with these like with spells and stuff, and it sort of follows from there. And yeah, I'm not really saying that much because I guess I would recommend it in some sense, but I think the main problem is that it's so long. It's 16 and a half like hours of like audiobook listening. I think that is a bit too long. I think, and also the book is quite thick as well. I've seen it in the shops, but I didn't read it particularly. But I do think that is way too much. It drags many times as well.
And there's so many instances when it's written where it's like, she can't do so-and-so, or she would want to do so-and-so and do this and this and this, but she can't, or something. Like, I can't really fully explain it, but like, they say like a list of things, but then it's like, you can't, or because she doesn't, or because she's a woman, or some things like that. They just get really repetitive and quite frustrating.
Yeah, I don't think it was really that well written, to be honest. I think it was very bloated, and that sort of made the reading experience not as enjoyable. And some plot points as well sort of go off, and you're just a bit like, yeah, I don't really know, I don't really like where it's headed, and you sort of lose interest and things. However, the ending was really good, and that the final part, where she's sort of written sort of like a letter in a sense, and like, I'm not gonna say anything, but like there's a bit right at the end, and this sort of, conversation that made me cry. Like, it was the first book that made me cry this year, and it probably won't be the last. But yeah, I just felt that it was just such an exceptional ending to the book, and it really brought my attention back. And it just, it gives truth to what he's trying to, I guess, say in the book about these girls that, were named and shamed and called wayward, and how it impacted their lives in a sense. Maybe not outwardly things that they've done to get past it, but you still harbour that inside, and the detrimental nature of putting all this shame on young women for getting pregnant, and the things they have to do to live, in a sense. I don't know what I'm talking about anymore, but yeah, I recommend it, but I didn't fully enjoy the reading experience. Next is a book, finally one that I've got physically, even though I did read quite a few of these physically, but we have The Bluest Eye by Toni Morrison. This is also one of my 25 of 2025 books, and I thought this was really, really good. I think I'm going to give it 4.5 stars. It's basically telling the story of a young black girl called Pecola, but it's not really ever from her point of view in a sense, but it surrounds her, and we get the view from like these other girls in the small town where she lives, her like mother, father, other people as well, and it's basically, at the heart of it is the story of this girl wanting to not be ugly and not be black. Basically, she doesn't want to have black skin, have black eyes, have black hair. She wants to have blonde hair and blue eyes, and everyone to say she's pretty and beautiful, and like the other white girls that she sees. And that is sort of what she wants and dreams of. And it sort of tells the story of the way black people in America during the time it was set in the 1940s and before, and obviously continued on, the racial discrimination, and I guess outwardly things, but also the undercurrent and the way that they are made to feel ugly and not worthy because they don't fit the beauty standards. And yeah, and there's also other plot points as well, and storylines about sort of domestic abuse and child abuse, and other things as well. And yeah, I do think it is an amazing book, and I would recommend it to everybody to read. However, I did find it a little bit confusing at times as well, because you don't really know who's talking for some parts. You do sort of get that as you go along, but it is a little bit, hard to decipher fully. And some parts where I felt was maybe a little bit irrelevant, that didn't really add that much to the story, some like backstory parts. But yeah, it is really, really well written. It's so well told. It's a very vital and important book, and the fact that this is her debut is just amazing. So I just cannot wait to read more by Toni Morrison. But yeah, this was great. Next is a book that I read for the uni book club, and that is White Nights by Fyodor Dostoevsky, and also the short story of Bobok. I believe they were both translated from the Russian by Ronald Meyer. For White Nights, I will probably give it 3 stars. I am glad I read it. I do actually own this physically at home, but because it was like the one that was chosen for the book club, I just read the digital version of it. Following this man over I think it's about 4 or 5 like white nights, where it's set in St. Petersburg, and this is the time when, because it's so far north, the sky doesn't like get fully dark at night, so that's why it's called White Nights. And he meets this other woman, this young woman, and they're both lonely for like different reasons. In a way, he is like a dreamer character, and he has all these like aspirations and stuff, but he's quite like a loner as well, and yeah, he doesn't really have many connections. And she, Nastenka, he isn't named, or I don't think any other characters as well. Well, no, some are actually, but she is sort of like pinned to her grandma, and who's blind, and she makes her like stay with her basically the whole day. But basically we get to know about these two characters, and it explores themes of loneliness. I think that is what is at the heart of the book. It is this exploration of being lonely, and these two characters, and like their backstory, and like who they are, and how they just, you know, want a connection in the world in a sense. There's also like a romance that blooms in some sense, and like themes of unrequited love. And yeah, I think it was well written. It was quite easy to, you know, understand and decipher. There are quite a few passages which go on and on where he's just like talking and talking, and also towards the end that it kind of made me feel a little bit annoyed, because it was just like the two characters in it was basically like crying and laughing, crying and laughing, crying and laughing continuously, and I was just a little bit like, come on, get a grip in some sense. It was just a little bit like annoying, but yeah, I think I'm glad I read it. Would I recommend it? Not necessarily. I think if you want to read it, then go ahead. It's a very, very short Russian classics. Like nearly all of them are massive. So for that reason, it's good. It's quite a good gateway, I guess. And I do definitely want to read more by Dostoevsky and other Russian authors. But I don't think it was amazing. And the short story of Bobok, I did think it was quite fun. It's about this man that is in like a graveyard, like a cemetery, and he starts hearing the dead bodies basically talking to each other like they're ghosts or spirits in a way. A little bit monotonous, I guess. It's not really that interesting, you know, what goes on, but it was just a bit, you know, different, you know. It's not really what you hear, or like in the story that's really been told before, so I did quite like it for that. For star rating, I'd probably give that maybe like a 3 as well. So yeah. Then penultimately, I listened to sort of a short story collection, Once There Was a Bear by Jane Riordan. This is basically like the authorized prequel to the Winnie the Pooh books, and it's basically about Christopher Robin, you know, getting Winnie the Pooh and the other animals or characters, Piglet and Eeyore and Tigger, and yeah, and they're sort of like meeting, going on different adventures and stuff. I think I would probably give this maybe like a 3.25 stars. I think it was good, it was fun, it was cute. I love Winnie the Pooh so much. However, I didn't really like the way Eeyore was written. I felt the way she made him talk and act, and like, you know, his persona was not really the like cute sort of like little depressive one. It was more like the buzzkill and just like trying to bring everyone down in a sense, than more just, you know, the fact that he is, you know, a little bit down. It's more, you know, yeah, he's just like, yeah, I don't really know how to explain it, but do you know what I mean? He's not as nice, he's just more like a irritant, which I didn't particularly enjoy, because I love Eeyore. I relate to Eeyore so much. So yeah, just to have that character a little bit changed and ruined in my eyes was quite annoying. But yeah, it was fine. I think I probably actually just round it down to 3 stars. And then finally, I read Soldier Sailor by Claire Kilroy. This was the first one in my Read or Unhaul sort of like spinner wheel challenge thing that I'm doing throughout the whole year. So I have sort of more thoughts on this book in that video, which should have been the previous one. But I did really enjoy it. I'm going to give this 4.5 stars as well. This is basically set out in some sense like a letter from the main character Soldier to her son Sailor.
No, she's Sailor and the son is Soldier, is it? How do I remember? Like, there's actually 2 characters.
But basically, anyway, it's about a mother talking basically to her son about the tumultuous relationship that they shared and him growing up, and also the pressures and responsibilities placed on women that the men don't, you know, have to deal with something in some ways, and how the husband and the father sort of gained from them having a child, because he got to you know, just have her doing all the housework and things and looking after the son, while he's got to stay at work and keep his job, and, you know, going up in the company and just coming home when the child is like asleep and happy and nice, and she gets all the tantrums and the harshness, I guess, of raising a child. It does really put on full force the inequalities in caring for a child. She meets with an old friend from around college age, I believe, and this sort of like relationship, can it get her to be in the woman she was before she had a child? And it explores that, and that, is she too drastically changed after having her son? And yeah, I think the way it explored motherhood was really, really good. It was very insightful. I know a few reviews I've read saying that she hasn't really said all too much new, but for me it was, because I haven't really read anything explicitly about motherhood. And yeah, it is really, really well written. It's well told. It's taught as well, and yeah, there's like the time jumps, I guess, and maybe not the most consistent, but I like the way it's sort of snippets of his growth. They are quite slow paced in a sense, the actual parts of the story, but because it goes over about, I would say maybe 4 or 5 years, I think. But with these little snippets, I think there's a very, very well done way to tell the story. But yeah, I would really, really, really recommend this book, and I would love to read more by Kilroy. So yeah, that was my wrap up. I think it was 8 books and 1 DNF, and I'll just quickly tell you the pages was 1,166 and 30.36 hours of audiobook listening. So yeah, I think it was quite a mixed bag as well of reads, which I'm happy about. So yeah, have a nice morning, evening, wherever you are in the world, and I shall see you soon. Bye.